Some of you guys are probably thinking, well, you're a pastor. Isn't God enough? Isn't Jesus enough? And I'm going to drop a real truth bomb on you.
I want to hear this.
God is enough, but you still need other people.
Amen.
Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too.
All right, everyone. My name is Dr. Rizo. I'm here with Mentality Unleashed. It's a new 12-series podcast that's going to focus. You know what we're focusing on? You know, this is the biggest thing, is being a man in society, right? It's tough. It's very difficult. But you know, can I tell you something? It's one of the most impactful. If the man is the man of the home, if we solve that problem, guess what works well in the home?
Yeah, everything.
Everything. The kids, all of a sudden they're doing good in school. All of a sudden they're not getting as much trouble. All of a sudden the wife's happy. All of a sudden the struggle, even though there's difficult problems, the family's working in dynamics.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is Mentality Unleashed is we're trying to really focus in on what the skills need in order to be a man. What does it look like? How do you get there? Wow. What's needed and what's required in that journey? And the way we're doing it, though, is this is how. See, I'm a nerd and I'm a scientist. I can't stand theory. I can't stand when people say, well, this might work. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're interviewing guys like Adrian Monge. Yeah, whatever one you prefer.
Monge,
there you go. Right? Tom Hollenbach, Brad Lawson, Nick Valajos, Hector Rizo. These are all men who have had that journey, who've had worked through those insecurities, who've worked through those battles, who've had to fight for their marriages, and who are in a good place now. And what we've discussed and what we want to do is also bring that story to light, because this is where I really want to hit on, is where did mentoring fit in that? Because, and I'll get there in a second, because the thing is we've all found Jesus. You've had Jesus almost your whole life. I found Jesus almost my whole life. Yet we needed that discipleship. We needed that guidance to help take us deeper and further. Yeah. So before we get into that, I'm going to do a shout out to Covenant Coffee. They really help out those foster students, and they're really all about hiring them and taking care of them. Taste that coffee, drink it, sip it, and it's good. All right, back to my boy Adrian Monge. So that's where we're getting into today.
That's so good. Yeah, that's awesome. I think too, because if you're out there watching too, maybe you're thinking, well, yeah, men have it hard, and I'm a guy, but how's this gonna help? I will tell you, if you have problems, you'll hear and see the solution before you can solve it yourself. So stay tuned.
So the solutions are right in front of you.
Yeah.
They're right there.
Yeah, and I had to watch it, and I had to be listening and paying attention for it. And I love that you're saying that there is a problem, and it is real. Yeah. It's a real thing, Guys are bowing out every day.
Well, I'm seeing it in schools. My business is really, my whole business, all my career is focusing on fixing kids. Guess what the biggest common denominator is between the kids I'm trying to fix?
I have a good idea.
Absent fathers.
Yeah.
Weak fathers.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of other common denominators, but that is one of the biggest ones. Not even race.
Yeah.
Lack
definitely.
of fathers.
Yeah. And
so you see where I'm getting at it, right?
Yeah. And I just had this conversation with a guy today, and he was telling me how his wife was the most spiritual one. And it's hilarious because I go like, well, no matter how spiritual she is, you're still the one called to lead the house spiritually. And he goes, how's that going to work? And I was like, well, listen, someday we're all going to go to heaven. Yeah. And God is not going to look at your wife and say, how's the house?
Boy. Hey, I'm kind of I'm a little bit of a manipulator. Oh. You know that, right?
I know.
I gotta work in a political world.
It's because he's really smart. Okay, it's not his fault. He's really smart.
No, it's not my fault because I work with all women too.
Yeah.
And so I gotta survive there. And so one of my jokes that I always do, not jokes, one of my strategies that I always do to get people to agree with me when I'm over, is I act like a weak dude. Right? I'll go in, hey, how you doing, Dr. V? What's going on? Oh, yeah, my wife, happy life, whatever she wants, whatever she needs, blah, blah. Worked for many years. This year it changed.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
How?
Yeah.
I want to know how that changed because
All
that
right.
strategy usually works.
Oh, bro, it's really good. This year, the women, I sat on the table. First year, at the beginning of every year, all the admin get together, psychologists, principal, director, we all get together and we all have like a good meeting, right?
Yeah.
All of us, like a few hundred of us. Well, I'm at this table with these women, and they're all psychologists too. And I started with that same old thing. And you know what they did this time? It didn't hit. It didn't land. They said, you know what? We actually don't like that. I'm like, what? Oh. They're like, we don't like that. We want a man. We'd rather you be the leader of the home. We'd rather you be the man of the household. We'd rather you take charge. And this is like professional women who are psychologists, like saying like, nah, I'm over that. I don't even like that. So you see how that problem that me and you've identified, the lack of even leadership, men being the spiritual leaders.
Yeah.
Women don't like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think too they see the side effects. Like women see when a guy is not being a man, what the side effects are and how it destroys the places that we live, the people we work with. I mean, it'll destroy the home. If a guy is not being himself, it'll destroy him. And it's like even the guys who never get out, all they do is work, all they do is chase the dollar, put it that way, right? And I'm not saying that's bad.
One of the side effects, though.
Yeah,
that's a side effect. You know what I mean?
But if that's all they're doing, they're not being themselves.
100%.
To the core, they're not being the man. They're being more of a machine that just chases money. And computers can do that these days. They can go out and search money for you. I mean, all kinds of systems can do it. But it's not the man. It's not what a man is at his core. Because even God in the very beginning, if you ever read Genesis, he puts the guy in a place where he knows the guy will work. He knows where it will fit in for him. And he gives him all these roles, and they're all authoritarian roles. Like even when he brings the helpmate on, he gives the man the authoritarian role not because he's more powerful, because that's who he is.
His role is.
That's his role. It's who he is. And when he's not that, he starts hurting himself. I mean, the problems start right there when he's not who he's supposed to be.
And there are those side effects. And that's what we're suffering right now. We're suffering all the different side effects. Right? Why is the number one leading reason why people do not want to work? Depression. Like how the heck? Worldwide, even in Switzerland.
That's wild.
Even in Switzerland, they have the highest of everything. The number one reason why they don't want to work.
That's crazy.
It's because they're depressed.
Whew.
Right?
That's
Talk
crazy.
about side effects of comfort. The life of comfort of all the things that we have. Hey, but I don't want to get into that yet.
Not yet.
We're going to
'cause
get
we
into
could
the side
die.
effects because I want to know about your personal side effects that you had to get through in a bit. But I want to talk about the story about where Tom Touchstone entered your life.
Wow.
Where he took you in. He called it the wandering years, the wandering phase.
Oh my God.
Take me through that.
I would call it the rescue. Because if anybody knows Tom Touchstone he knows exactly when to step in, and he knows when it's most beneficial to the person, to himself. He knows when it's time. But I had been in the ministry already for 16 years as a pastor. I had already taken on all kinds of roles, from being a pastor of a church, being the lead pastor, being the pastor of life groups for another church, being the leader of the men's ministry and pastoring that. And then he's seen that all go away, and I was just left there and gone, all right, well, what do I do now? In fact, it was almost like me asking myself again, what am I?
Did you almost feel like you lost your identity when all the pastorship is removed?
I definitely questioned it. I mean, I even went to a close friend and I just said, okay, if I can't be that here, then what am I here?
What was the answer?
He says, you're still the same. You're still the same person. He said, that does not change who you are. It may change what you do here, but it's not who you are. And
wow, dude, that's a hey, all right, let's pause on that. What you're saying is, so what Adrian's saying is, your identity, whether it's a pastor, whether it's a business owner, whether it's being an educator, whether it's being a psychologist, whether it's being a lawyer, none of that is your identity.
Right.
None of that is who you are. So who are we?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have to answer that. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, we could dive
into it, bro.
But I'll tell you, so I was in that point though. I mean, even though the questions were there, I'm not going to say that I had the answer right away. It wasn't that easy, right? But Pastor Tom,
Thank God it's not.
yeah, he came alongside me and he really said, he asked me this question and he said, who's speaking into you?
Wow.
And I was just like, what do you mean who's speaking into me?
Wow.
You know, and he goes like, well, I know you're not under this pastor anymore. I know you're not under this pastor anymore. So who is speaking into you? And I said, well, nobody.
Wow.
And he said, well, I would like to be the one who speaks into you, Adrian. And I just go like, all right, that would be awesome. Because, you know, I was kind of like wandering around going like, well, I guess I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'll just wait for God. And then Pastor Tom showed up. And when I say he spoke into me, this is where a lot of you younger guys should pay attention, because that is one of the biggest problems we have is we don't allow other people to invade our lives and speak into us, because that is a problem. If nobody's pouring into you, you can't pour out. And Pastor Tom poured, I mean, not just time, but energy and words of encouragement, words that built me up on the inside. Even though I was a little lost, not knowing exactly what my role was, he says, it doesn't matter what your role is. You're awesome. You're strong. You're smart. You're good. You're resourceful. I mean, he just kept building me up, you know, mentoring what was inside of me. And even to the point where he created projects for me to do, knowing like, I'm going to invent a project for this guy.
Hey, so what you're telling me is, let me kind of guide it through. At one point, you were wandering. Yeah. And during that wandering phase, did you felt like you lost your calling, or you didn't know what your calling was for a little bit?
Well, the good thing was I was still able to do what I do, which is just minister, you know, because that's how my world is built. My world is built around me in such a way that if I didn't walk into a church for 100 years, I would still minister and pastor everywhere. 100. No matter where I'm at.
It should be as you live, baby. As you live, we should be doing it.
Yeah, and that was the good thing. But inside of the church, I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I don't know how I can help. How can I use what I have? And that's where he jumped in and said, I will show you how you can use what you have. And I think too, it's encouraging because he knew. Yeah. And that's the thing about mentors. You got to find somebody who's done it. Yeah. You know, who's been there, done that, got the t-shirt. They show you the t-shirt and say, I've been there, I've done that. Let me help you get through this. And he did 100%. And at the end of that, it wasn't even, I'm mentoring you for you to help me. It was like, I'm mentoring you to help you. Yeah. And it was...
That's the best.
Yeah. And that is the most... It's so sacrificial, man, because they don't have to mentor us. They don't have to help us. No. In fact, in the old school way of organizations, they would push you out of the way because you're the wasted space, the weak one, you know. And he did the opposite. He said, you know what? I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to build him up because he still has value.
Wow. And what was the most difficult part about the mentorship? Was there anything difficult about that, or was it smooth?
I think ego kind of gets in the way.
Fair. Yeah. That's okay.
Ego.
Explain. What does ego mean in the Adrian Monge world?
So I want you to think of it this way. I've been at that point, I had already been a pastor 18 years, right, when this happens. And ego takes over because you would think, I've been at it for this long. Why do I need someone to help me?
So when you say ego, let's be specific. Your self-talk.
Yeah, my own ego.
That one thing, that one guy who we call the mind.
Oh, yes.
Is that self-talk that's reoccurring.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. So the hardest part for you was the ego, the self-talk.
Oh, yeah.
And it was specifically about, you've already done ministry, so why should you listen?
Yeah. And it was like, what does this person have to offer me? Yeah. And I mean, it was when I heard myself thinking that, I really had to acknowledge it and be like, okay, this could seriously get in the way of everything this guy's trying to help you do. The beauty about good mentors, though, is you could tell them.
Yeah.
And I was able to express with Pastor Tom, like, hey, listen, I don't know what your end game is here.
Wow. So you actually had that conversation with him? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we had to sit down and talk, and he said, listen, Adrian, you have no chains with me.
Wow.
He said, you are free
At
to
what point did you do that? At what point? Because I know about all of your journeys.
I was there for a couple months underneath him. And
so you're at Stockdale Church already out there for about, what, 3-4 months?
Yeah, I was at the Northwest for a couple months, actually about 6 months.
Oh, so this is already like half a year.
Yeah, and he had really pushed to get me to another level inside the organization. And it didn't work out. For whatever reason, didn't work out. But he still was mentoring me. And I sat down and I just talked to him, and he just was so clear, man. It was the most selfless conversation. He goes, listen, I didn't do this for me. Wow. I did this for you. And he's all, you have no chains attached. You are free. Wow. And I was just like, talk about my ego going, like that self-talk, that ego just like, I was like, you are such a dummy, Adrian. How could you possibly think this guy's being so selfless trying to help you, and you want to let your ego get in the way? And that's when I was like, you know what, Pastor Tom, what do you got next? What do you want me to do next? You want me to wash your car? What do you want?
You would have traveled the world for the guy.
Yeah. And it was, but that is sometimes, I mean, the difficulty of thinking that you can do it on your own, and it's all ego, guys. And it's built into us as a good thing, but it will get in the way of a even better thing if you let it. Ego is,
and I think in your reflection, you're kind of like, why would I? How would I? But I think every single one of us has that same voice all the time. And it's always just blah, 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 blah. And I believe there's evil spirits that are pitching in on that stuff to feed off our insecurities, to feed off of those wounds, to feed on our pride. So I believe there's also spirits involved in that self-talk already. So what you're saying, though, sorry, I was getting off on a tangent. I wanted to go down that rabbit hole, bro. I wanted to go down it, but I brought myself back. Hey, but what you're saying is, though, to get rid of that self-talk, though, you had to do something.
Oh, yeah.
You had to talk to him.
Yeah, definitely. I could not just sit with the thoughts at all. Like,
if you didn't talk with him, what would that have led to?
Oh, man, I would have probably just left. It would have just been a silent departure, It would have been abandonment, because eventually that would have created a barrier for me and him, because he would have felt it, I would have felt it. And there's no way he could mentor me if there's a huge wall in the middle, no matter how much he loved me or how much I loved him. With that barrier of an ego, you can't do anything. But I knew that I had to talk to him. So, and he always, that's the cool thing about mentors, is like they always have that availability. Yeah. When a mentor tells you something like, I will always answer your call.
That's hard.
That's
hard to do, man. That's hard to do. I don't know why you made that commitment.
I just want you to know I may not always answer your call. Because I'm on the learning side of it, right?
Yeah.
But what power is that, to be able to tell another person that? And I mean, what kind of love is that? That is the ultimate, man.
Sacrificial love.
Yeah. And it's huge. It's so much like Jesus that when somebody does that, you can't help but fall in line. And when they really start to really pour that love on in that way, it really makes you want to fall in line. And it's even like in marriage. Like, guys tell me all the time, oh, my wife needs to submit. The Bible says submit. And I was like, bro, if you were really in line with the creator of heaven and earth, you wouldn't have to tell her a thing. She would want to be in line with you. Yeah. She would want to be a part of how cool and awesome your life is.
That's it, man.
And it's and that's what happens with a good mentor. You just crave that, being in line with them. Hey, you want to be a part.
And because I think you and me are a lot alike.
Well,
we're soldiers. I know we do look alike. Probably confuse us. We're soldiers. Definitely, we're soldiers.
Oh yeah.
We're down.
Yes.
once you win me, though.
Yeah.
If you don't have my respect or my trust, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
Yeah. You won't be on that battlefield.
So that's why I love how these mentors, though, were the opposite.
Yeah.
How Tom won over your respect. He won over your love.
Oh,
And
yeah.
at that point, he could say anything he wanted to your life, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, when he told me, I think you'd be really good at podcasting, I said, listen, sir. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never been on a podcast. He's all, well, I think you would do really good. And it was because of how he mentored me that I said, well, I'll give it a try. If you say I can do it, I'll try it, you know? And he was right. Like, he didn't miss a beat, man. And he definitely poured into me.
That's why I love mentoring, though. That's why I like the process, because all it is, we're just swapping out a word. It's just discipleship.
Oh, yeah.
That's all it is. It's just discipleship.
Yes.
And it's speaking into somebody's life. It's showing them the path by example. And it's providing them specific processes and strategies on how to get through it with Christ.
Oh, yeah. And if you look at, like, I know a lot of you guys may not like the discipleship word, but check this out. Jesus mentored 12 guys at the age of 30 to the age of 33, roughly, right? These guys, he knew them. Like, he spent time with them. They walked over 250 miles in those years. And so he spent all this time with them. If you wonder what are the effects of mentorship, it was that all these guys, even Judas, they died. And they died knowing how much that guy loved them, and they would die to do anything for him. That's discipleship, right?
Deep.
That's mentorship.
That's deep.
That's what happens when it's real, you know, when it's real mentorship. And it's strong, man. Like, your dad, he was the first pastor. And if you don't know who his dad is, I mean,
Hector Rizo.
Yeah, Pastor Hector Rizo. He was the first pastor in my life that befriended me.
Yeah.
And really poured into me. And he asked me, he's all, hey, who mentors you? Who you? And I was like, I just looked at him
Hey,
like.
but how did he ask you? Where were you guys at? Were you at a church? Was he
Oh,
asking
man.
that? Where were you guys at?
So
when
we
he
were
asked you?
riding bikes,
Yeah,
actually.
I knew it.
We were riding bikes, and he just like busted out, like, and I just look at him sideways, like, what kind of question is that?
You weren't going to a church at the time, or you were at a different church,
No, I was
right?
a pastor.
You were
Yeah.
a pastor, okay.
I was pastoring a church, and I had been pastoring for over 12 years. And I was having a struggle, and he goes, who mentors you? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I was just like, why are you asking me that? Don't you know I'm a pastor, Pastor Hector? And what he was really offering that day was, I'll mentor you.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it that day. But later on, when he called me again, and he goes, hey, why don't you come do this? Come hang out with me on this. And I go, okay. And then he just started investing, just like Pastor Tom, that time. And
You've had the same men speak into your life as the same men that spoke into mine.
ooh, yeah, definitely.
A lot in common there.
Oh, yeah. And but Pastor Hector, he has I've known him for 14 years now.
Wow.
Like 14 years, and he has always been the voice of encouragement.
Yeah.
And I don't think every mentor has that role, but I know that his role is that in my life, is that he speaks so much encouragement in my life, and it fulfills me in the dark days.
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
Dude. Oh, well, we all need that.
Yeah.
I want to get two more things before we go out. And first one is going to be, where would we be? Where would you be? Where would we be? Even with Jesus. We have Jesus. We've had Jesus.
Yeah.
You had Jesus all the time. You're a pastor. Where would you have been without those men who took you along and disciple/mentored you?
Ooh.
So I want you to answer that. But then after that, where are you at now in the mentorship process? Because you're no longer the mentee per se, which we're all getting mentors still always.
Yeah.
But now I want to know where you're at now with your group. So start with the first one, though.
Okay, so I can tell you pretty straight up, I would have probably, I don't even know. I've never said this publicly, but I probably would be dead.
What do you mean?
I mean, I had so much darkness come over me, physically and emotionally. And your father, Pastor Hector Rizo, was the guy to help get me out of that.
Wow.
And I know if he was not in my life, it would have been over.
What do you mean over?
I believe I would have probably taken my own life because I stopped seeing the value in it. I was done.
When was that? Bro, I never knew this.
It was, I had been a pastor already for almost 10 years. And it was the worst time I'd ever had in my ministry, in my marriage. I mean, everything was falling apart. Everything. And your dad just stayed encouraging, man. And I didn't even tell him until like maybe 3 years later.
Wow.
And he goes, it's because of who you are. It's because of who you are. But I said, no, it's because I was like, it's because of who you are, Pastor Hector. It's because of who you are. And it would have ended, right? And
I didn't know that, man.
If Pastor Tom wouldn't have rescued me, I think I would have been so bitter with the church, with just, and I'm not saying one church, I'm saying the entire church.
Me too, bro.
I would have just been like, you know what?
Me too.
I know why Jesus stepped out of the church and started his own ministry. And
yes.
That mentorship gave me the hope because Pastor Tom exists and operates in the capital C church, not the church organization. And when he did that, it swept me into a place where I could grow. It took me from dying in the shadows to growing in the sun.
We have to be loved. We have to feel loved in order to grow.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You had to feel that love.
Yeah, yeah. And some of you guys are probably thinking, well, you're a pastor. Isn't God enough? Isn't Jesus enough? And I'm going to drop a real truth bomb on you.
I want to hear this.
God is enough, but you still need other people.
Amen.
And you won't make it to where you're supposed to be without other people. Jesus gave that example to perfection the day he was walking to his cross. They put the crossbeam on his back. People forget about this all the time because Jesus challenges us. He says, if you want to be my disciple, take up your cross and follow me, right? But that day he taught us the most powerful lesson of life. He's going up there. He's God in the flesh. He has all power, all dominion. He's bleeding all over the place. He has this crossbeam on his back and he stumbles. He falls down. And the Roman soldiers grab Simon, who's standing there, not Simon Peter. This is another guy, and have him help Jesus. Now, Jesus had all power. He could have asked an angel to carry that thing for him, but he allowed it to be witnessed so we could see we need other people.
Wow.
He challenges us to carry our cross, but then he shows us, but you can't do it alone. You need other people. And it's like that. That's
powerful, man.
That's what mentorship is about, having other people.
Now, how are you doing it now? What does mentorship look like
man.
For you now?
I would say what does it produce? Because it gave me a place to grow. Mentorship has given me a place to grow. And now I am a men's ministry pastor.
Attaboy.
And so I'm raising up an army of men at another campus, right? But not just that. I raise up leaders in all churches that want to participate. And they come to our table. And you have to be qualified to come to that table. And it's crazy because I never thought that would be my role in the kingdom. But I am able to pour into these men, and they are now discipling and mentoring other men. And it's just like, in the kingdom, I'll tell you, there's no other blessing like watching what you produce reproduce.
100%.
There's nothing like it, man.
The ultimate growth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think if Jesus looked down and his disciples were just chilling in the sea fishing after he left, and that's all they did, he would have been like, you missed it, bro. But because those guys went out and did it, he was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. And that is where I'm at now. And I'm on this journey to where, people come to me to learn how to disciple men, and from all places. We have people from Las Vegas, from Florida, and from San Diego. They just want to be a part of what God is doing in that part of my life. But it was because of my mentors that was able to grow.
Dude, that's powerful. We got 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
Give us one last message, one last piece of gold.
I would say this. You're probably wondering, how in the world am I going to find a mentor? And I will tell you, they are all around and they're already there. Look for them.
There you go. Thank you guys for joining us with Adrian Monge and me. And remember, guys, January 6th, we're going to be having an event, half-day event. Come see us. Look at our link below. All right. Peace with some chicken grease.